Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the first webinar in our four-part XA Web-Series. I am Elsa with Guide Technologies. Guide is Infor's largest channel partner with over 200 XA customers. We believe in XA. It is a robust and secure system loaded with functionality. We are excited to share with you today how XA is modernizing the way manufacturers work and is ready to support you in the digital industrial technology era. During this webinar, all lines will be muted. Please use the question box in the GoToWebinar panel to ask questions, and they will be answered at the end. I know Rick has a lot to present today, and with respect to everyone's time, I will pass it over to him. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. This is Rick Altenau. I have taken a look at the attendee list of who's going to be here today, and I know most of you. So as we go through this, please feel free to ask any questions in the text box, or if we have time at the end, we'll open some things up. But we're starting out this webinar series talking about the green screen. And the fact that, there's nobody that walks into any of our buildings, looks at a green screen and says, wow, this is really cool. It's not exactly a real attractive thing for new hire. However, we now have tools that can replace it completely. And at the end of this, I have a roadmap from Ross, which will give you a time frame of what's happening for the final steps that we've been hearing about for a long time, but it is finally being scheduled, and appropriate things are moving forward. So we're going to talk today about what is the technology, what is IDF, what is the MES, what are the different tools that we have that replace the green screen, what applications are going to be moving forward, and how do we get rid of that monstrosity, that green screen. So anytime that I'm talking about something that will be coming out from Infor, they want me to put up the disclaimer. So when I'm talking about the roadmap, basically this simply tells you that that nothing is a commitment, but we will give the best knowledge that we have. XA is a long and robust ERP, been around for a long time. Most of the ERPs that started when XA started are not still around. The reason that this product is still around is because it has been re-engineered, rewritten, had multiple generations of software multiple times. The latest that we are at is using Infor Operating Services. It's using the IDF. It is very modern and very capable as to what we can do in today's world. So there are a lot of capabilities, and I want to concentrate on those new things here. Now I'm going to bring up a slide here that talks about new applications. These are basically release 9. This is just to show you that even though all of us are not participating in all of this, there has been a lot of development work in the XA world. I was at the MK conference, the Guide MK conference last month, and I did a small presentation on the technology and investment in XA and the size of the new enhancements and the capabilities that are coming out, just to be able to convince everyone that this product is moving forward. It's very exciting. And as Elsa said, we are bullish on this product. We think that this has a long future. Many of our largest customers are reinvesting in XA. There were a number of customers that 5-10 years ago said we're going to be looking at some other options. They've turned around and they are investing in this product. The security, the I-Series, the long-term commitment of this process. And if you don't know, Infor is IBM's largest business partner on the I-Series. XA is the largest ERP that runs on the I-Series from Infor. The I-Series has, well, it's no longer an I-Series, it's the IBM I. I'm using the wrong name. But the IBM I has at least a 10-year roadmap. It does not end at 10 years. There's just so many technology changes, they can't tell us what's going to be happening at that point in time. So it's gone out 10 years. And XA's roadmap is not quite that long, but it also doesn't have an end. It is simply the development of what they're doing, how long it's going to be. This is a long-term commitment by Infor. So there is a lot of support for that type of product. When we're looking at the applications that have come out, some of these things you're going to look at and say, well, that's been out there for a long time, EPDM. In Release 9, there were over 2,600 program enhancements that had to be made just to call the item master file within XA. We no longer use PDM. Now, most of you are already on ePDM, and that's good. If you are still using PDM, this is something you're going to need to move off of. PDM is going to be discontinued at release 10. Any of these older applications, they're no longer going to support them as we move forward. So you will need to keep some of these things in mind. We being XA, no longer use anything left from PDM. We no longer use the item master file. The only reason it's still on your system is so that you can run queries and reports against it. Advanced planning, both visual planner, throughput, the material planning, the IDF for planning applications are all finished. We have a brand new financial system. CRM, both our own XA CRM and integrated into Infor's CRM are both there. We now have a very strong workflow. If you haven't looked at Ion Workflow, this is a very cool tool, and it's fully integrated into the technology of XA. So they didn't just pick what programs that they wanted to integrate this into. Every field that you go into, every field that you come out of, every screen you go into, and every screen you come out of has a link for workflow. So it is integrated fully into the IDF. And that would include anything you've written of your own objects in Enterprise Integrator. So very robust, and it talks across systems. So it goes from your networks to your iSeries to your email, etc. If you haven't seen Business Intelligence with Burst, this is very cool. I've got 1 or 2 slides on it today. We have another webinar coming up on that. The MES system is a shop floor touchscreen data collection. We now have a document management function that's built into Infor Operating Services. Material Logistics was the rewrite from ISL and MISL from release 7.8. And then, of course, our native interfaces. This is the IDF, Java, HTML, and XML. In other words, PowerLink, NetLink, and SystemLink. And iWorkspace, a new interface that I will show you live. Over and above these applications, we have extended beyond the iSeries into functions that Infor is selling. I'm not going to go through this. This isn't meant to be marketing. I want you to simply know that this is an advancing and expanding application list that we have. Now, the good news, bad news that Infor has always taken about green screen and why it's still on many of our systems is that Infor has never in the past retired an application. And when they came out with a new enhancement, they always would put it in the background or they would default it to not being active. That way, when IT puts on an upgrade over a weekend and you come to work on Monday morning, you can still do your job. Mapix did that, Infor has done that. So it's been very consistent through the years. That's the good news. They didn't want to interrupt you. They've been very careful about making sure your investment was always working. The bad news from that is you could be on release 9.2.2, which is the latest release, and still be running your system the way you did when you were running release 4 or earlier, because you've been putting on these updates and these releases, but you're not taking advantage of them if you don't know they're there. So there is a good and bad to how they have rolled these things out. Anywhere you're looking still at a green screen, we need to look at those and say, what is the options? What is Infor able to do for us now to move that forward? So Infor is not going to keep up that old approach of keeping all the old stuff around. They are going into transition mode. They're going to ask you to move to new applications. They're going to decommission applications. They're going to a standard technology and a standard footprint. So when you flexed, if you flexed, or when you did your last upgrade, chances are you got a whole set of applications. They want every XA customer to be running the same application, so that they don't have to test. Well, this person's running materials management, but they're not running OBPM, but they are running purchasing. All those if statements and conditions are in all the programs, and they're a nightmare to maintain. By having a state-of-the-art standard footprint across the customer base, it's going to make it much easier to be maintained. And then, of course, a lot of this is going to the cloud. Not a lot of this, all of this is going to the cloud. And Infor is emphasizing that a great deal. That is triggering a lot of the improvements that we have. And of course, that is a trigger to get rid of green screen, because that is not a tool that we want to put on the cloud. So examples, some of the mandatory transitions we're talking about. PDM's going away. IFM is going away. Accounting management's going away. Everything green screen is going to be gone. So as we're looking at these things, you can see that there are functions, applications that are going to be turned off, and I have lists of what some of those things are. Everything is going to be developed in the IDF. And if you haven't heard me give you the explanation of why we have IDF, what does that stand for? It's very simple. When Infor bought Mapix in 2005, yes, Mapix has been gone since 2005. They looked at PowerLink and said, wow, this is state of the art. This is cool. It is a fantastic interface. We want to trademark it. They tried to. You know, Power, the word Power was owned by IBM. Windows was owned by Microsoft. All the things that they wanted to look at were owned by someone. Well, they wanted to have a name. So they looked at it and said, well, what is it? Well, it's our development framework. So they called it the Infor Development Framework, IDF. IDF, that's the only thing it means. You're not better off knowing where that came from. But if you ever wondered what that was, IDF is a development tool that they run at Infor. That development tool has a user development tool called Enterprise Integrator. Most of you are running it. So this pipeline here is the development tool. You have your iSeries over here. You have your database that has all the metadata and all the controls that are in the database. Then we have this IDF development tool, and it publishes, when they write something, in HTML, in Java, and in XML. Words that we use are PowerLink, NetLink, and SystemLink. So we have all of these that are published out of a single tool. So you're always dealing with the same database. You're always dealing with the same edit corrections, things like that. What we're looking at is a common approach to how we're going into the database. So if you're on NetLink, if you're on PowerLink, that's just the interface you're choosing to use. If you're uploading files from Excel, going through SystemLink, you're going through the same edit checks all the way through. It's very consistent. So this is as technical as I'm going to get today, right there on this slide. This is the development of the IDF, which is a majority of the user interface for the system. IDF consists of these multiple pieces. Now I'm just giving you examples based on what we just saw. We have PowerLink. This is Java. This is what you've been used to seeing since, release 7. So this is a Java-based, you load software on your PC, and it uses a lot of memory going back and forth. It sends files to your PC. It doesn't work real well remotely. It's relatively slow. This is NetLink, the HTML version. Now, I cut off the URL, which is on the top of the page. You can do that in Internet Explorer just by hitting F11. But this is simply a URL. Nothing is loaded. This is the same as going to Google or Yahoo. These are the same functions. I have them on a different screen. This one I have on Enterprise General Ledger. This one I have on Engineering, which is EPDM. But they are the objects. Now, there's a couple things that you may not have seen. One is SystemLink. These are the XML commands that are run behind the scenes to make these functions work. Now, this one down here on the bottom left is called iWorkspace. If you haven't used this yet, I'm highly recommending that you look into this. First of all, for most of you out there, it's a no-charge order. You have to have a license key for it. So you have to talk to your guide, or for some of you who are from different affiliates, talk to your account executive. You can get a license key, but chances are it's going to be at no cost. Unless you're really back level and there's a couple other issues. But this is basically included. This is the new front end of XA. If you look at these screens up here, this is the engineering tab. And I have enterprise items, I have sites, I have item revisions. Well, this is simply in Explorer mode. Notice I have planning opened. Well, in planning, I have 5 objects. If I went to this planning tab right here and opened it up, I would see those 5 objects. It's the same thing. It's simply a front end to call the program. I'm going to show this to you live in a few minutes. This is really key to be able to get rid of green screen today. This works. And finally, we have the Mingle interface. You've all been hearing about They've renamed it several times. It was 10X, then it was XI, and then it was Infor Operating Services. This is the Mingle interface. And again, I know it's behind some other windows, but we will take a look at this coming up here to show you what the options are. So these are the things that replace the green screen. Now you're used to knowing how this stuff works. I'm in this particular case, I want to go to the item revision file. Anytime you click an object in IDF, what does it do? It opens up a list view. It opens up a report. Because you personally, not your company, you personally decided what the subset is. What parts am I going to see? How is it sorted? What columns of data do I want to see? If I'm in manufacturing, I probably want to see drawing numbers and labor time or costing statistics for manufacturing. I might want to see all sorts of different things. If I was in purchasing, I want to see a vendor number. I want to see the last time I bought it, what the purchase price is. So we can all click on one of these objects and we get a report specific to what we need. Then once I'm in there, I click on any one line item and it brings up a card file, which is basically the detail behind that line. Now, this might not look a lot, I'll get that out. This might not look like what you're used to seeing in PowerLink. This is NetLink. I'm showing you NetLink because NetLink is the primary go-forward interface for XA. PowerLink is not going away, but there's not new development plans for PowerLink. PowerLink does not run on any type of standard. It doesn't run well on the internet. It doesn't use Internet Explorer. It doesn't use Google Chrome. It doesn't use the standards that are out there. NetLink is an HTML5 interface. It is the standard of the internet. This is what is the primary user interface moving forward. And you have the ability to use this today. We'll talk about what some of the limitations are, but this is NetLink and you should be looking at it. It's also much faster if you have remote locations, remote plants, things that you need to get to and you don't want to send and load either remote desktop servers or Citrix systems or even worse, PCs directly across the internet. They're downloading all the overhead of that Java interface, PowerLink. NetLink is much more effective. So whether we're looking at engineering, now we're going to look at materials. I'm going to go into the item warehouse. What does it do? I click on it. It opens up a list window. I click on one of those objects. What does it do? It opens up the card. Once you know the technology of IDF, it simply moves forward. Now, in this particular case, instead of using iWorkspace, I'm on the NetLink main menu. Same thing. If I click on manufacturing operations, here's all the open operations. If I click on one of those, I opened up a manufacturing order with the bill, the router, all the information on one page. So very quick, very easy to use on NetLink. If I'm doing advanced planning, notice it is graphical, it is quite powerful, it integrates capacity, the routing files, with your material plan, so you can see when and how you're over capacity and how realistic your plan is. It is a very nice system. All of the green screen MRP inquiries have been upgraded and now are available through IDF. This comes on its own tab. It's called Material Planning. If you didn't know it, it's a new application. And many of you have it on your system. Again, it's in there in the background. You didn't even know it was there. You've got to go get these new cards. You got to go get the new lists, things like that, and put it on your system. Once I select one of those things, what's it going to do? It's going to open up the card file. So the consistency here across the board is meant to be, once you learn this technology, it's going to work the same way every time. Now, here's something new for most of you. Finance is an IDF. Enterprise financials are out. Everybody has heard horror stories, I am sure. The same as for those of you, some of you that are old enough, and remember in 1987 when IFM came out, XA Release 1. The previous release was Mapix DB. That's when Markham owned the product. So it goes back to showing my age. I've been involved with this too long. But The initial release of IFM was not pretty either, but they have fixed a lot of those problems. Many enhancements are coming out with 9.3. They're going to make it smoother. They know what the issues were, and so they are fixing this. We have about 25 customers live now in Enterprise Financials. So this is a working tool. We're ready to go forward with it. Something that you should be looking at, because both accounting management and international financial management is going to be discontinued at release 10. I've got a timeline for that. There's not a hurry. You've got plenty of time, but you want to keep that in mind. Those two applications, accounting management and IFM, will never get rid of green screen or IDF level 1. They are not being developed in the IDF. Enterprise Financials is only an IDF application. So that's what this is. And when I click on something, what do I get? I get a list view. Looks consistent to the other schedules. Now, instead of double clicking on this and opening up a card, which I could have done, I want to make another point. The Enterprise Financial System is built around Excel, which is what every accountant loves anyway. We all use Excel excessively. We can directly read and write to and from Excel. It is a standard part of the system now, and moving forward, they're going to, my understanding is they're going to even have rather than going through your clipboard, they're going to have a direct download to Excel. So it's going to even be easier to move those things around. So there are a lot of good things here as we're moving forward. Now, what do we do in finances? We want to print financial reports. Well, what we do now is we print our financial reports directly to Excel. F9 is an Excel add-in. So it comes up with its own ribbon up here. These are all different types of dashboards and pivot tables that allow you to do your analysis, executive boardroom level quality financials that you can generate directly in Excel and then print or PDF any way you like. So as we're looking at that, we then go to the shop floor. Now the shop floor, from an IDF standpoint, many of you will have noticed that all the transactions are not available in IDF. Some of the functions from the shop floor are not available in IDF. And where I'm saying here we want to get rid of green screen. Well, good news. First of all, they are coming out in IDF in release 9.3. I'll show you that in a minute. But also, right now on the shop floor, our answer to getting rid of green screen is through our shop floor manufacturing execution system, MES. Some of you are using the older version of MDCC, but this is where we are tracking our labor, tracking our production schedules, clocking in and out for payroll. We have electronic Kanban. We have quality transactions we can put in here. We support barcode. We have an interface now. This over here is MES. This over here is actually a guide product called Scan and Track. The point being is we have interfaces on our shop floor to be able to manage and implement into the system without ever needing to use a green screen. We really don't want people on the shop floor dealing with PM and C and entering transactions on a keyboard. That's just not the best approach. So with all this, in 2012, this is what XA looked like. In 2012, this was before Infor Operating Services. This was before a lot of expansions, a lot of new capabilities come into the system. This is what it looks like today. This is XA. So we have added a lot of extended applications. These are things that are not running on iSeries. We have business intelligence. This is the operating services piece over here. With operating services, you're automatically going to get things like home pages, document management, workflow. Can't believe I don't have workflow written up there. I don't see it on the screen. That's my fault. This should say workflow. So we have the capabilities of doing that. Plus, of course, you can see there's new red functions and all these applications that have come out that are a part of the XA package now. So none of these are green screen. Let me show you some of the things I just did in live code. This is now live. Every single screen that you've seen was a copy of my screen. These are things that are available today. So I want to make sure you understand it. And this fine looking consultant over here is running this demo It tells you what environment you're in. It tells you what company that you're in. So if you're differentiating in different areas on your system, you can do that. We have multiple windows here on our screen. So we have tasks, we have favorites. So if you use something a lot, this column starts out blank. If you really want to see something, you use it a lot, I can just take something and slide it over, and I just added item locations to my favorites. So I don't have to go through and search for objects. I can build the things that I want to see right here, and I never have to open them up. But if I'm not sure what it is, I can search titles. Do you show me everything with a warehouse? And there are all the objects that are associated with a warehouse. And I can keep my notes up there too. So this is a nice little system. It is a front end of NetLink. So it's HTML5, very powerful. And over here, it shows you the last 10 objects that you've been in. So if I want to go to item revisions, if I want to go to item warehouses, well, first of all, I can go in them because I was in them over here, but I can go to engineering. I can go to EPDM. Those are my cards that you're recognizing right there. And I can click on item revisions, and it opens up item revisions. Now notice here, I am home. This is item revision. I have multiple windows open simultaneously. So if I want to have item warehouse open too, I have multiple warehouses. All of these buttons along the top are the same ones that you have in PowerLink. So it looks very familiar. The screens are slightly different because it's using internet standards. So we're going through using all the capabilities of the internet, but all the rules of IDF are still there. Notice I have all my views, subsets, and sorts that are available to me. So these are all there. Now, what's not there today, and this is important, what's not there today is the ability to create a new view, a subset, or a sort, or a card, something that doesn't exist. That's coming out shortly. By the middle of 2020, all of NetLink will do everything you can do in PowerLink as long as the internet lets you do it. And what I mean by that, for instance, is that the internet doesn't have windows that talk to each other, workbenches. That's why they came out with a couple years ago compound cards. So you can build your workbenches into cards because NetLink does support cards. Mingle does support widgets. So we have multiple ways of getting into multiple cards, but it has to be based on internet standards. PowerLink actually has more capability than the internet does. It's more powerful than the internet. There were some capabilities out there that simply you couldn't do in Internet Explorer or in Google Chrome or Fox or whatever the things that we're supporting. And so there were limitations there. But as I go into this, the same as I did before, if I go and look at part number 1000, I'm in item warehouse file. When it opens it up, here's my card files. Here are my cards right across the top. So it's the same as it was before. Here's my planning. And inside planning, these cards have multiple cards, so I can break it down multiple ways. The same thing you see in PowerLink. This is all exactly the same. And from here, all of the shortcuts still work. The displays still work. The right mouse button still works. If I simply hit continue, it goes back to my list view. And from here, if I hit the right mouse button, there's my display. So all those functions are still there. One more thing I want to show you, and this is cool. I'm sure nobody's going to be upset when I tell you that IDF level 1 is going away. We don't need host presentation server. You don't need a separate server to run that anymore. If you are running NetLink, anything that you're running, including green screens, work through here. Of course, they're not green. But this is one interface. So for instance, let me go to a master schedule. This is something that right now does not have an IDF front end. When I click on that, what does the system do? It brings me into the master schedule. I have complete capability, and yes, if you're looking at this, you're saying, well, yeah, Rick, that's still a green screen. Well, it is in the background. 9.3 is going to eliminate the need for this. But for now, you can eliminate 5250 emulation by using NetLink. If you have a remote site, you screen. So everything's still working there. I just wanted to show you that very quickly, and then we're going to go back to where we were. All right. So it is 2:30. I am trying to keep this on schedule. So we're going to move on and talk about some new capabilities here. Besides everything in XA, we now have what's called Infor Operating Services. What is Infor Operating Services? Very simply, this is what you get if you're an Infor customer. It doesn't make any difference if you're running XA, LN, BPIX, System 21, Sightline, whatever you're running, it doesn't make any difference. What you're going to get with operating services is if you are an Infor customer, this is sort of the foundation of what you get. It includes some of these functions over here that's listed, and it includes additional things too. But this is where workflow is. This is where document management is. This is where Mingle is. This is how you can tie those things together. So Infor Operating Services is going to be this suite of products that you get. If you might already own these things. If you've done upgrades lately, you've already owned these. If you've done a flex, a lot of these things are already there. But you're going to get Coleman. That's artificial intelligence. I'll tell you what, this is going to change our life in the next 5 years. I can't tell you where and how, but I'm telling you, AI coming into manufacturing databases, we're going to get information we never realized that we could get. We have data lakes for business intelligence. We have Ion here, which is middleware, transferring data back and forth to different systems using the power of the internet. Here's Mingle, social collaboration. Here is Internet of Things, a link into your shop floor, into equipment that's out there, or going out and simply reading devices that can talk on the internet. So all of these things are part of Infor Operating Services. It is written in a tool called Mongoose, which you get. So you can actually write apps of your own in operating services. This is a PC networked system. This is not an IBM I-based system. So this is linking your stuff together. Remember, when you get on the internet at home and you pay a credit card bill, you never think to yourself, gee, what system am I on? You click a button, it opens up your bank account. You click another button, it opens up the credit account. Well, those are two different companies running two different systems. So all those things are tied in. You never ask, gee, what system am I on? You're simply doing transactions. What Infor Operating Services does is link all your systems in your business the same way. When I'm looking at a part, I want to look at the drawing. I don't want to go sign on a different network. I just want to bring up the drawing. I want to bring up document management. I want to bring up business intelligence. These might be on different systems and different servers. I don't care. That's what operating services is doing for you, linking all this together. So it's all focused on the cloud. The next time you're thinking about upgrading your IBM I, you should seriously look at or talk to your account executive to see what would be the option of going to the cloud. This is really the future. Now, a lot of customers don't want to do it for a number of different reasons. We still support all the on-prem, but there are things to look at here that make this worth your while. I'm getting a beep in the background, so I'm sorry if I got cut out there. But this is all stuff that's part of, it's been developed for cloud, and you get to take advantage of that even if you're having an on-prem. So when you're in the cloud, you have home pages. You have the ability to summarize things any way you want. These are going to open up objects if you want them to. Notice I have multiple screens that I can go to. I have, here's an example of Dave Foster. Many of you know him from Infor. This is a home page that he developed. It includes all of his workflow stuff, all of his posts, his tasks, his bookmarks. And so he can go through and quickly look at the things that he wants to look at. Now, this is the screen earlier before I called Mingle. This is the Infor Standard. So when you're looking at this, this is, again, doesn't make any difference which ERP you're running. In fact, some of you are running multiple ERPs. You might have XA and you might have Cloud Suite Industrial, which is Sightline. Well, what I'm looking at here, I'm looking at an XA screen in the TT environment. Each one of these buttons here represents a different piece of software. One of these could be Sightline. One of these could be Enterprise Asset Management. You put in here what you want, but this is all of Infor in one spot. This white box through here, that's NetLink. And these over here are widgets or in-context business intelligence. And they can be internal. I highlighted a vendor. Here's all of his open purchase orders. Here's how much money I spent with him this year and last year. I can go to the internet. Here is a Google map that shows the address of that vendor. And I have more of them down here. You can see they're closed, but it goes off the bottom of the screen. If I scroll down, I can put as many widgets in as I want. So this is the Mingle standard. None of this has green screen in it. It has this general layout so you can understand what you're looking at when you're looking at the screen. So whether you're looking at XA, in this particular case, I'm looking at social business, Mingle communication. I have alerts, I have tasks, I have posts. At very minimum, this would be my workflow interface. If I want to get into the ability of replacing email with alerts and tasks, I can do that. This is really quite powerful. And it's worth a demo if you've never seen it. I'm not going to demo all that today. I'm talking about the tools that are available to you today that don't need green screen. This is a thread or a feed that's available on Mingle. So I can go through, and this thread would encompass everybody that sent messages. And yes, it's a LinkedIn type thing, a Facebook type thing. But there are huge advantages because this is controlled. I can put in copies of orders. I can put in information from all my different objects up here. And when I send a message to someone else in the business, they have a copy of that order with them. It really has a lot of advantages to it. And then, of course, we have integrated workflow. These are coming through operating services. So if you didn't know you had that, every one of you may look at a license key and see that you have something called iWorkflow. That was being developed by Mapix in 2005 when Infor bought them. It had just been released. There's never been any more development on it because that was not the standard workflow that was moving forward. That's being discontinued. I don't know anyone that's using it. But you also own Ion Workflow, the one that we're talking about here. And this is really quite powerful. So what else do we have? Well, one of the things that people always say when they get rid of green screen is, well, I need information. How do I get reports? I use queries. What do I have to do? We now have Burst, one of the top 3 business intelligence systems in the world. Infor was trying to develop their own. They realized what a competitive market was. There was 3 obvious leaders in the world. They went out and they bought one of them. That's where Burst came from. So what is Burst? Well, Burst is anything in an ERP is a transactional database. If you want to see every shipment, every SA transaction of a part number for the last 20 years, you can do that. But of course, none of you want to see that. You want to see, show me how many of these parts I've sold by quarter with seasonality for the last 5 years. What do? You take that information, you download it from XA to Excel. You summarize the data, and then you create a graph across it. And what did you just do? You created a little BI system, business intelligence, using Excel in that particular case. And a BI database is a summary database based on the results of what you want to see. Burst has the ability to do that automatically. Once it understands what the database is, you don't need to do this. Some of the older standard systems like Cognos, BI has been around for a long time, but it was hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement because there was so much development to make it work. Burst does that for us. Now, Burst is a tool that was released by Infor for anybody to be able to use. But they didn't write interfaces into all their applications. Guide has done that. What we did is we have a tool called ATX. We said, what is common to all of our customers? Well, every one of them has these objects. Objects aren't files. An object could have multiple files in it. When you go look at a customer order object, you might be looking at 30, 40 different files. They're all linked so that you have logic to what you're looking at. So an object, that linkage of all your data files already exists in the IDF. So what we did is we took that interface, we read the IDF, and if you can create a view like this, we can take that view and turn it into business intelligence, dashboards, graphics, top 10 items, top 10 customers, sales by quarter, whatever you want it to be. And I pulled sample graphs out here. I realize it's fuzzy and you can't really see any of the data. That's because it's not real, it's pictures. But in this particular case, this is where reporting can come from. And it's not just sales data, it's manufacturing data. One of our customers right now has already taken Burst and they've used it to create business intelligence screens across their shop floor. And they display them on big TVs over the machines because it's live interactive data. There is a separate webinar on this. I only have a couple slides. So what did we do with Burst? This window in the background. Each one of these dots represents an object in the IDF. And I zoomed in on it here. All we did is we used all the links that already existed in IDF, and we linked those together and we fed it into Burst. What that means is that even your custom objects, if you've developed with Enterprise Integrator, are available to Burst. If you've added fields, if you've added your own objects, they're all a part of the IDF. They're all a part of the business intelligence database. So this creates literally overnight a job that you run and a complete, I always get this word wrong, Sigma, I always say that wrong. But anyway, that links all of those files together in a business intelligence way so that you can use this information. Very powerful. Another webinar on that. I'm showing it to you because it's a way of getting information out of the system that's not green screen. It replaces queries. It replaces all sorts of tools. So that is really the end of the presentation when it comes to eliminating the green screen. Every single thing I've showed you is available today. But let me tell you how this is going to be coming out in the next couple of years as far as a roadmap from the system. So what I have here, this is not an official roadmap. I took information from Ross, which is official, and I created a calendar across it. I sent it to Ross. He said, Rick, I think you're a little conservative. I think some of these things are going to come out earlier. Now, for any of you that have dealt with Infor for a while, I sort of snickered at that and said, okay, well, we'll leave it on the dates that I have it. If you can beat that, all the better. But what we have, we're currently at 9.2. We're in the middle of 2019. Well, we're near the end of 2019 right now. All of these functions are going to be coming out as PTFs when they are available. So NetLink to replace PowerLink. So the ability to go out there and do subsets and sorts. I'm going to show you a screen just coming up. The IDF, anything that's still green screen right now, is coming out with new objects. There's going to be like 29, oh, here, I have it up here. 2,900 new objects are coming out with release 9.3. It will be the largest single PTF release in the history of XA. That's how big this release is. There's already going to be the first round of eFinancials enhancements based on customer requests. The iWorkspace, the Mingle, the IDM, that is the document management system, is going to have some enhancements to that. The burst links are going to be a little bit stronger. So these things are all coming out as PTFs. Then what we have over here is we have release 9.3 that's going to be coming out, and it's going to come out in limited availability. It's so big, they want several customers to test it and use it and get the bugs out of it. Once it's been out, probably about 6 months, it'll become generally available. We're expecting that, and you can see the 9.3 is going to come out in the middle of the end of 2020. It'll be generally available at the beginning of 2021. Typically 9 months later, Release 10 is coming out. So for those of you that have been talking about Release 10, and I've been saying green screen goes away, there was no Release 9.3. But enough customers said you cannot just go from 9.2 to Release 10, have all these new IDF objects that we've never seen before, and delete the green screens in one swoop. They said, okay, we're going to give you all the capability that was going to be in Release 10 in 9.3, but we're going to keep the green screens. So that if you have customizations, if you're still using it, if you need to train your people, 9.3 is when that will all be available. So when Release 10 comes out, green screen's gone. And they're already taking enhancements requests for things beyond Release 10. That's something they haven't done since Release 6. So again, those of you that have been around for a long time that remember when we used to get enhancements, things that we wanted to see changed in the product, that happened. But since Infor bought Mapix, they have concentrated their time on Infor Operating Services, on ION, on linking these applications together. They've rebuilt security. There's over 2,000 new security enhancements in XA. That's not even visible to you. But remember, this is now going out in the cloud. They had to meet certain standards. And so there's things that they have to do. We already have the luxury of being on an IBM I, which is the most secure server in the world, bar none. They needed to tighten some of the security inside of XA. There's been a lot of work done that we don't necessarily see. But now they've finished that foundational work over the last couple of years for Infor. They're back saying, what do you guys want? And if you haven't been on Infor Extreme lately, there is a suggestion area out there. They're looking for you to put things out there, and they want you to read what other people have suggested because you can then vote on them. They're going to do the ones that get the most votes. It's that simple. All right, so what are some of these enhancements that are coming out? Let me show you just a couple very quick examples. We'll go through this pretty fast because we're almost done. So what do we have here? We have, here is NetLink. And notice we can now customize our view subset sorts, cards, all those kinds of things. This will be a part of NetLink. It's not today. If you roll out NetLink today at a remote location, you need to roll out at least one copy of PowerLink to a super user so that they can create the views, subsets, the sorts. But let's face it, most of our users use what's given to them. NetLink fully uses all the ones that are created. If you need to create a new one right now in PowerLink, create it, and then it's in NetLink. That's all it is. That's all it takes. And it's there permanently. But this will become a part of NetLink over the next year. Then, of course, if you want to do things on the fly, you can customize subset criteria simply by using the right mouse button on the order titles. This is all stuff that's available already in PowerLink. But there are new tools available that's going to be in NetLink that we haven't seen before that the internet allows us to do. So we're going to have filter rows. So you can do on-the-fly filters. You guys have seen this in Excel for years that you're going to be able to do on the database. Very powerful, very nice. And then the long-awaited, long overdue scheduled issues. Yes, I know. We've been talking about this for years. Believe me, I know. I've been the one talking to you guys about it, about many of these things. This is now scheduled. This is being done. And one of the reasons that it took so long is that every single inventory transaction in XA has been redesigned. There were places that some of our inventory transactions were done in 5 different programs, done 5 different ways. Because it was done in PM&C, it was done in inventory management, it was done in MDCC, it was done, it was just all these different programs that did this stuff. And when they were going out to try to put in new capabilities, they would have to go in and modify all this stuff, and it was just ridiculous. So what they've done is they've rewritten over 2,600 programs that write inventory transactions. They're all done in one spot. They're going to have continuity through the system. For instance, a pick list out of a manufacturing order is going to look like a pick list out of a customer order because they're all simply requirements lists. You're going to be able to have multiple pick lists in COM, something that is one of those does statements that we should be able to do. You're going to have all the partial shipment capabilities, all the things that we've been wanting for years. It's all there. I've seen a lot of this stuff working. This is real. So we've been talking about it for a long time, but now because they've rewritten all these, they've already done over 20 enhancements that's going to be delivered with this too. There's about 40 more queued up, and there will be more based on what you guys put into the request system. So all good stuff. Finally, if you haven't seen it, I've been talking about some of these applications are going to be decommissioned. These are decommissioned products at 9.3. So when 9.3 is out, these are going to be decommissioned, so they will not exist in release 10. And there is a whole lot more right in through there. Finally, release 10 will eliminate all the green screens. Everything. I showed you in iWorkspace, everything's available now as an HTML object. But system objects are the only things that you're going to need access to through IDF level 1. But system objects are also things like work spool file, things like that that are a part of the system. This is all user controlled now, user secured now. These are some of the enhancements that they've been working on, because if you're going to the cloud, you just can't give people command line on your iSeries. You've got to be able to, you'll still have it if you want it, but your users can be secured from it. So iWorkspace is out there. We have all the NetLink and Mingle capabilities, and PowerLink basically is what it is. They are going to use PowerLink for cross-app stuff, but they're not planning on using PowerLink as the key for anything from a user standpoint. It will be for administrative users. So, guys, it's been 55 minutes. We've covered a lot of material. I've not given you a chance to do questions. This is our little advertisement for a couple of more web series that are coming up over the next couple months. We invite you to do that, to look for the information on that and register for those. I will be giving some of them. Some will be by other people. But anything that you have questions on or anything that you would like, please feel free to chime in right now on the text on the screen, or I believe, Elsa, you could probably unmute people, and if they have any questions, we can go from there. So thank you for your time today, and Elsa, I'm turning this back to you.
All right, Rick. We had a couple questions come through during the presentation. The first one is for automotive customers specifically, and they ask, auto release, how does this affect the standard footprint, and will this be included in IDF development?
The good news is auto release is on the roadmap for XA. I was shocked to see it. I was expecting to see that to be something that was discontinued. Some of our customers, at least one of which is on the line right now, and I'm not going to pick them out, but the IDF has already been written across some of these things. I do not have a specific answer for that question because I was surprised to see that on the roadmap. This is in the last 2 months. So they have changed their approach towards auto release. It is going to be supported with XA moving forward. I know internally it was always a different development team. So there was always issues between auto release and XA and what did they do and who's responsible. I need to get more information on this, but I was excited to see that it's there. That's the best I can give you for now.
Okay. Let's see, another one just came through. Can we currently run PowerLink and NetLink at the same time for all users?
Yes. Yes, and if you are running from one PC, it's only one license. Now, I don't know why you need PowerLink and NetLink in the same PC, but you can. And as long as you're on one PC, and in fact, pre-release 10, well, green screen still exists. If you're running a green screen, it's still using the same license, as long as you're signed on the same way on all of them. But yes, all of those run the same way. It's simply a different interface into the same data. So if you update something in PowerLink and you go to your NetLink screen, it's not a copy of the data. It is the same data. It will be updated.
And then a follow-up to that, what browser does NetLink support? They noticed you are using IE.
It is supported by a number of different browsers. I would have to go to the helpline Infor Extreme to get the list of what those are. I use Chrome personally, but although in this presentation, you're right, I was using IE. So both of those work. Those are the two that I use most often. I believe what is Microsoft's. I think that one works too. But there is a specific list of approved software that Infor publishes.
Okay. This is another question that came through, and this is in regards to iWorkspace. They have a question in regards to custom programs and can you run an emulation session?
Yes. Now, think about how in your green screen, you could create a task and you could put your own program on an XA menu. If you do that, you're creating an object in IDF. Now, that whole thing, there might be a way of doing it, and I'm not an enterprise integrator expert and all that kind of stuff. I know generally what it can do. You can probably create it directly in IDF. But I'm saying if you have an existing green screen function that you haven't converted yet, that's how you could get it in there, and it would show up in iWorkspace, and it will work. That is an interpretive compiler, meaning that unlike HPS, Host Presentation Server, there was actually a file of all the green screens. It knew where to look for information, and sometimes that file would get out of sync, and you lose a field when you went to try to look at that in a PC version. That will never happen here because we're actually reading the green screen and interpreting it into NetLink.
Okay. We have workbenches with NetLink. Any recommendations on how to replace them?
That I'd have to look at one at a time as to what your workbenches are. My first choice is to tell you use compound cards. Now, as soon as I say that, every single workbench is not going to be available on a compound card. There are different types of limitations. If you're using Mingle, you can use widgets and in-context business intelligence. We have been able to help find ways around workbenches. But workbenches, the reason they're going away, Infor doesn't want to take them away. PowerLink is more powerful than your Internet Explorers and your Google Chromes and all those kinds of things. You can't support that in HTML. It's not there. So that's the reason it's going away. So we have to look at those one at a time. I do not have a generic answer, but my default answer is look at compound cards first.
Okay. Got a couple minutes left. I'm not seeing any more questions coming through. The slides from today's presentation will be emailed out along with a link for the recording in the next couple of days. And as I say that, we've got one more. Does our iSeries have to run on an HTML server for NetLink? Or HTTP, if I said that wrong.
Does the iSeries have to run on an I'm sorry, you guys who know me know that I'm the business guy, I'm not the technical guy. I'm not sure I understand the question. I don't know of any server. Java runs natively on the iSeries. I don't believe that you need any other servers. Java and HTML runs natively on the iSeries. I don't believe you need any other servers to make that work. Now, Oracle was upping their licenses and their costs for Java. If you haven't seen this yet, Infor is moving away from the Oracle Java and going to a different standard. It's something all of us are going to have to look at. It affects not your iSeries, because it runs IBM Java, but it affects your PCs. That wasn't your question, but the answer to your question is I don't think you need any additional servers to make that work.
Okay. Well, we've hit our 3 o'clock mark. Rick, unless you have any other final words, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. And like Rick said, please keep an eye out for part 2.
Elsa, thank you. Yes, Elsa, thank you for putting this together. And you guys know me. Feel free to send me an email if you have any other questions. And if you don't know me, it's on the bottom of the screen right now.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Elsa.
Thank you all for joining. We hope to see you next month. Have a good one.